Hammer made sure to put up an authoritative stamp on his latest championship. However, the 5-race season was left with a blemish at the end. Unable to secure a complete sweep of victories, Wojtek Potocek claimed the final win in season 27. Will this drive Philip to come back and join the ranks of Ironam by claiming every race in a single season? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round 1 of the Absolute Beginners League, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is DJ Clark. Behind the scenes is our director, Robert O'Brien, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Road Atlanta will be a tough one to get away from your rivals. The incredibly long backstretch should keep the fighting close. Let's head to our track guide to find out more. Welcome to Road Atlanta, the scene of incredible sports car racing for decades and the home to the Petit Le Mans. This is a track that has proven itself to be worthy of attention on a world stage. With it being situated only an hour northeast of Atlanta, Georgia, the circuit is in a prime location. But despite its flagship race, in contrast to the real Le Mans, the full course is a measly 2.5 miles long. The club layouts also clock in at just under 2 miles. Packed within this small lap length is a series of technical and challenging corners, some of which can be race-ending even when small mistakes are made. Turn 1 is a fast sweeper which compresses the car into the track, but the high speeds mean that when you go off, you typically go off in a big way. Turn 3 is notorious for its curved entry into a blind apex. Too far inside and you face a cut course penalty. Too far outside and you're likely to spin out. Then there's the unassuming Turn 5. The wide curving lures you into getting greedy, but the close walls on either side gobble up cars and spit them out as a crumpled heap. With all the tricky fast turns, that's not to say that there aren't passing opportunities. The main one comes at the chicane at the bottom of the backstretch. The huge downhill drop into the turn makes outbraking yourself quite easy though, so be careful. The whole thing wraps up with the frightening final corner. With nothing but a giant wall right to the outside as cars fly through at high speed, it's not often that wrecks are small. Boasting a wide swath of series over its history, everything from NASCAR to Indy Lights and of course IMSA, the main use of the track is SCCA events and driving schools. No wonder this place is popular both in real life and here on the iRacing service. Fans will no doubt get to enjoy many more years of action at this incredible track. Well, DJ, it's a Skip Barber, and yes, it works well around here, but this is going to be a relatively big track for this car.
Yeah, it really is, Joe, but the long backstretch is going to set up what we've seen a couple of times when these skippies take to these longer circuits, and that is a massive draft train. The key thing here is you're really going to want to stay within about a second of the car in front of you to be able to maximize on that draft. The first sector of this lap, going up through turns 1, 2, 3, 4, down into the S's, that's all going to be a little bit about follow the leader. You got to be a little bit careful coming through turn 5 because these cars are a little bit lower powered. That's not nearly as much of a danger zone as we've seen it before, but you need to be able to keep an eye out there. You run a little bit too wide, get up onto that curving, it can throw the car out of whack. As I said, your best passing zone, though, is going to be out of turn 7 on the long run down the backstretch into turn 10, and I think we may see a few aggressive moves getting thrown into 1, but those are the 2 big areas to watch for.
Absolutely, and you can see we've started qualifying, but before we get to those, let's take a look at how the championship wound up, and Philip Hammer easily had this one in the end. It was about 17 points, which doesn't sound like a lot. He didn't have the greatest to finish in that last round as everybody chased him, but he had built up such a lead that nobody was able to run it back down. David Burns, his usual rival, has been trying to find pace over him, but just can't seem to do it consistently enough. Giuseppe Tolini was way back there along with Josh Brain and Simon Mayer fighting for the 4th position by the end of round 5. What about the team's championship, DJ?
Well, Joe, over there was an even stronger domination for Two Stupid Dogs, holding off a 44-point lead over Wave Italy Team 1. Evolve Motorsports kept things interesting with them, only about 9 points back, but a pretty sizable margin back to RT Racing and NHR Esports behind them to round out your top 5.
And for today's race details, same as last season, same as last couple seasons now at this point. They've got 50-minute races now. This is becoming the standard, as before they only ran 45-minute races. But those extra 5 minutes have made the difference because they haven't changed the fuel. And so now it is 2 stops instead. And that certainly makes it even more fascinating to watch, as different drivers have employed different strategies on when to stop. And that really has opened things up a lot, made it really fun to try and see who goes which way. It is open setup still, even though these are very basic cars, not much that you can do to them. And of course, they have some incident limits and a spare car waiting for them if they wind up having some trouble out there. With 2 pit stops, definitely that spare car has saved a few of them. In the meantime, before we talk about the qualifying, make sure and check out our sponsor, Majors Garage, home of free Baseline Plus setups. Get help from any of the garage coaches 24/7. Sign up now for awesome, affordable monthly subscriptions, telemetry, coaching, and more by simply clicking on our link in the description below. When you do that, make sure and use our discount code MajorsGSRC to get 10% off on your order. So the first few are coming down the backstretch already, as you can see, and already with this only being a 10-minute qualifying and with about 30 cars out there trying to find positions, some are looking to try to put themselves in the front. Some are just trying to use that slipstream to get that little bit extra speed and put themselves higher up towards the front for the start of this thing, DJ. And look at this. It is an absolute madhouse coming to the line to finish their first flyer.
Yeah, indeed it is. And I think this is going to be probably one of the packs that we really want to keep our eye on. This is Burns, Vanderbilt, Magruder, Neptune, some familiar names. As the fan belt goes to P1, but Jeff Randall able to pip him away. Tony Hayes, Solander behind them. Rounding out your top 5. These times coming across very fast now.
One of the things we've also gotten used to in recent seasons is Philip Hammer, despite being as dominant as he is, has had trouble getting back home in time from other obligations to get practice in. He showed up very late, I think with about 5 minutes left. He was able to get back out on the track and put some practice laps in. We're looking at our current pole sitter there, Neil Bamber, who has, 800s, 900s over over Jeff Randall currently. In fact, the top 4 have all of 2/10 between them. So as expected, it's looking like it's going to be quite tight here in the qualifying. Just the littlest mistake could make up multiple positions.
Yeah, Joe, especially at a place like Road Atlanta where there aren't a lot of super heavy braking zones, only 12 corners around here. So definitely one of those areas that I think you're going to see these close times. There is Hammer also doing what we've seen him do a couple of times, running off by himself. And this shouldn't necessarily give us the most accurate representation of his pace because obviously you were able to gain or lose so much speed down that backstretch. But let's see as he comes across the line here. That's going to be a 37.3. That is pole, and that is a gauntlet thrown.
Without a slipstream. This is just unbelievable. Vanderbilt does go quicker, so it looks like Hammer did get knocked down to 5th that time by. And Giuseppe Tellini jumped up into P2. Magruder has put himself on the second row. David Burns, the one who's been trying to get back to a championship in recent seasons, but Philip Hammer has been denying him, has managed 4th place. So we're starting to get more and more drivers on the board. They've got a few minutes left, but we've got roughly 10 or so that have not set a time.
Yeah, and some surprising names there. Neptune, Protocek, and Azosio. Some drivers that we're used to seeing further up towards the top of the field. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see him get down there. It looks like Protocek, though, has been stopped on the side of the road for a while. So I wonder if he's got something going on. Continue to ride on board with David Burns right here, though. He's going to be getting that nice little draft from Johan Vanderbilt. Currently, P1 right now is the 18. Burns is going to be able to pull out, try to make up some time here.
And this is actually not too far behind Philip Hammer, who's still out there circulating. Curious to see if he can make up the 3 to 4 tenths that he's away from the pole position as we now look in front down into the chicane. Burns has clear air into there, so this might be a quick one. I'm watching Hammer come across the line to see if he improves this time, and he does. It's a 36.8. That's back up to pole, but Burns now crosses the line. He had a good slipstream, but it's not enough. It's a 37.3.
A little bit surprised by that, but there we just saw the Trident be able to bump his way up into P6, so a good run there for Frederick Neptune. Johan van der Velde continues to hold on to that P2 position. Terry Magruder in between him. That last lap sounding like it was invalidated by the iRacing system, so he must have run wide there at some point.
So right now, then, we're looking at 0.3 of a second, just under 0.4 from first to fourth place. They're spreading out compared to before, but there's something to be found as we ride on board with the fan belt now. Coming down with a little bit of a slipstream towards turn 6. Only Potacek, Paolo Anzioso, Nico Heinen, and Daniel Solo are the last ones waiting to set a time in this field. So that should be pretty much everybody able to get one on the board, at least, with a few outliers at the back. And once again, Van den Belt using this to his advantage, and it does look like he's again improving, but so is Hammer, who at times is about 0.2 up on his best time.
Yeah, he was fastest through Sector 2 on that last lap, so Hammer continuing to throw down the, well, proverbial hammer here as he continues to work his way around with a lot of speed. Ooh, I don't think Johan's going to be too happy with that from Magruder. They're cutting right in front of him.
And David Burns, I believe, as well, is going to go in front, and Hammer goes even faster at 36.5 now. Burns down to the line. Not sure if he's going to improve. It's a 37.2. He does. And that does not take him up any positions. The fan belt's not able to find a quicker lap on that. Probably do that late pass there. And yes, it might seem silly with them trying to fight like this, but DJ, like you were saying earlier, having that slipstream can make so much of a difference. Unless you are Philip Hammer, you're probably not going to be able to run as quick a laps.
Yeah, exactly. And it just goes to show just how quick the 60 is, that he's able to do all of these laps with no slipstream and still keep the time up. There you can see Johan van der Velde, though, working his way out of that tricky turn 5. You've got to be very, very careful applying the throttle. Going to be able to slip by the number 19 machine there. Looks like he's just slowing down a little bit. Hammer should be in good line here to get a good double draft. Hopefully he'll be able to work his way by and not have to fight with Magruder again.
Looks like Daniel Solo finally put one down. He goes to 26, so only Anzioso and Heinen need to set a time. In fact, Nico in the 23s coming across now with about 30 seconds left. He'll be able to do one more after this if he needs it, but he doesn't necessarily. At 40.1, puts him at a 27th. So that is good news for him. But who is going to take the checkered flag first here? Because we got this group coming up through the chicane. And I think they're just going to get there in time. Philip Hammer goes even faster now at 36.1. He is 0.8 clear of anybody. And behind them, Burns crosses 36.8. He finally cracks under, up into second, and then gets shuffled right back down to fourth as Van den Belt goes up into second place, a 36.8 himself. But the checkered flag is now out. Everybody who crosses the line is done from here on out. Gonzalez crosses 40.5, improves him up to 29th. Looks like Brunschweiler not able to go quicker. Dorser's not able to improve, and Anzioso is the only driver that will not set a time in this qualifying session. Lodane does not improve. Looks like Jeff Randall is going to put it out on a 37.2. Much better for him. That goes from 18th to 8th for the 107 car.
Yeah, that's a great run there for Jeff, and I think he had a little bit of help on that last lap from Figueras as they now go their way through, waiting to see if anybody else is going to be able to improve. Nicholas Anderson is going to cross over the line. Not seeing an improvement there from him. I think the 26th place car of Daniel Solo is going to come down pit lane. Here comes Van den Belt again, trying to get by Magruder a little bit, just trying to pick up the draft. He'll be aided by Burns' line there coming down into 10.
As we follow them into the chicane, I can report that Potacek is crossing and goes to a 37.5. That's another big jump right there. That's up to 11th for Potacek. Philip Hammer coming down to the line as it looks like Van den Belt is going to abandon his last lap. 36.152, another 100th off for Philip Hammer. So is Tellini or Burns able to go faster? 36.7 for Tellini, but Magruder is up into second place, and it all swaps around at the very last moment. Let's go through your starting order. It is Philip Hammer on the pole. Terry Magruder starts in second with David Burns in third. Frederick Neptune will be P4 as Giuseppe Tellini is fifth. After that, Johan Vanderbilt gets pushed all the way down to sixth in the end. Thorsten Seifert will be P7. It's Neil Bamber starting eighth with Jeff Randall in ninth, and Brunschweiler will wind up in 10th.
In 11th, it's going to be Andre Salander, followed by Keith Drost in 13th. Josh Brain will be 14th, followed by Nick Cardy, with Marcus Beifeld in 16th, and Italio Anzioso able to put a time down to go 17th. Heinrich Kamara will be 18th, and lining up in row 10, it's Tony Hayes and Mark Figueras.
Rob Adams will be 21st with Klaus Lodane behind him in 22nd. Peter Stipek is P23. Then it's Nicholas Anderson following in 24th. Dana Bose will be on the inside of the next row, and Daniel Solo in 26th. You've got Nico Heinen in 27th and Vladimir Stezkal in 28th. Two more to race with Miguel Gonzalez in 29th, Johan Dorsers in 30th, Anzioso will grid up at the very back of the field, having been the only driver failing to set a time. It is standing start here today, so this is going to be fun to watch down through the first half of the lap, as they are pretty narrow at times and they're all bunched up. Good news is it's pretty good conditions, 85 Fahrenheit on the track, a little bit of wind, but not super aero-dependent cars in terms of grip through the corners. So hopefully that won't upset drivers, except for maybe giving a little bit of a boost in certain places if they get a headwind and that slipstream. But we only lack, I think, two of them that need to grid up at this point, Bamber and Solo. And then we should be good to go. We've got a few seconds, so hopefully they're not starting from pit lane on us, as they're in pretty decent positions. And it looks like we are all there. So the lights now come up as the engines start to rev. It's a new season in the Absolute Beginners League, and the green flag is out. It's not a good start for David Burns. It looks like he's slow off the line, and the Trident is going to be able to easily get around the outside as they come towards turn one. And this is going to be a bit of a tricky corner, but not as frightening as it is in other cars. It's turn 3, DJ, that we got to watch out for.
Exactly. Blind, crested, left-right combination here. There you see Burns just slotting into line. Looks like your top 5, 6, 7 able to get everything nice and easy into a straight line. Not seeing a whole lot of problems. I see a little bit of puff of brake smoke there behind, but I think everybody able to make it through nice and cleanly. And
this league prides itself in clean starts, clean racing, and that was great to see. Ooh, that was a big slip up there from Neptune. And Tellini is going to try and fight back, but it looks like he's not able to get by. So Magruder, and Magruder has a big slide, somehow catches the car. It was fully sideways with two wheels in the grass, and it came back to him. And somebody behind there spins. I think Josh Brain is off. Everybody scatters, and we got a car on its lid.
Yeah, it looked like there that I'm not sure exactly who it was, but somebody got very, very cross-eyed coming down into turn 7, and that just caused a domino effect. But up front, we are going side by side here. Tellini trying to get the move on Magruder. Vanderbilt and Neptune going at it as well.
It's going to be who can break latest into the corner as they go too wide into there. And it looks like we're going to be clean on the first part. Now the exit, we can sometimes see switchbacks. Who dares carry this down into turn 1?
Looks like Magruder had to give up the ghost there a little bit. That's who we ride on board with right now. You see him trying to take a little bit of a wider line down into that final corner. Ooh, big catch there, almost losing it coming onto the pit straight.
This is scary stuff at the start, but they're going to go side by side as Tellini wants that second place. And all this is doing, allowing Philip Hammer to scream away from everybody. Vandenbelt takes a look, then backs out, and they go single file once again into turn 3.
Yeah, and here they go. You really can't take it more than one wide going into turns 2 and 3. As I said, such a tricky braking zone, completely blind in almost every car. But what this is doing is it's really allowing Philip Hammer to streak away from this field, all this battling. He's already got a 1.5 second advantage.
That's not good for everybody else. Really, I would think here the big move would be to hold on to his slipstream early in the race, save some fuel, and see if you could challenge him later with some pit strategy, DJ. But now that option has been taken away.
Yeah, he's going to have to fight a little bit here to just keep himself in front. But granted, if he's able to keep up large enough of advantage here, he will be sailing pretty. And it looks like he's just got the outright pace. Remember, he was setting quality laps here without the draft. So he's clearly got that car set up to run in clear air.
Going to go side by side between Magruder and Tellini. There was a pass behind them by Burns over Vandenbelt. And it looks like not going to be a big fight from Tellini as Magruder sneaks into second place once again. We're going to need to see some working together if they ever hope to try and catch up to Philip Hammer. 2 laps, and it's already nearly 2 seconds ahead. That's probably broken the slipstream already.
Yeah, it for sure has, Joe. About the effective range of that draft is going to be about a second or so in these cars as we see Marcel Brunschweiler setting the fastest lap of the race with the 37.3. So a good lap for him. He's holding on to the back of this leading pack right now.
Before we get back around to the back stretch where we're expecting most of the battles to be, let's take a look at that opening incident through turn 7. The 27 car was the first one to get tangled, even though there were some messes in front of them. And that's what caused them, you could see, to suddenly pile up and turn somebody over. Didn't quite make out who it was that rolled on his lid, but you'll see Rob Adams get kind of pushed sideways and on the racing line, and that's really what did most of the damage.
Yeah, indeed. So Rob a little bit offline there, going down into turn 6, tries to go now into 7. You can see a little bit of that checkup up ahead of him as there they go in. Ooh, that's contact with the number 6 by Stipik, and that's really going to cause that big all around. Not sure who that was. That may have been Lodin that ended up on his lid.
I'm missing a wheel to boot. So definitely had to take a tow. And that was Solo, unfortunately. After he finally got a qualifying in, he had to end his race a little bit early, it appears. Oh, he is back out there, so he did take his spare car. Oh, if we come back live, Magruder just made contact, and I think that was with Tellini, actually. Tellini trying to recover now as he went 4 wheels into the grass, and amazingly in all this, Podacek has been very savvy. He has climbed up 4 positions into 7th. Let's take a look at this 3 wide down into the chicane.
And 3 wide gets a little bit hairy. That's going to be Tellini down to the inside, Burns and Magruder. Magruder trying to stick it in there. Oh, it was contact with Burns and then contact with Magruder. So a double hit there for Tellini, and that's what sent him wide.
Glad everybody's still rolling and still has all the parts on the car on this one. It's been a bit elbows out at the start of this season. Yes, it was a calm first few corners, but then from there, suddenly drivers getting aggressive at this stage. And all for what is essentially a battle just for second, because none of them have been able to be faster than Philip Hammer in any of this laps. It is Burns leading Vandenbelt, leading Neptune behind him.
Yeah, Hammer able to pull out about a 4-second advantage right now, but literally throw a blanket over the rest of this field. Burns all the way down to Drost, really, in 12th place. They are all running pretty much within a second of each other. Very, very tight battling as we now get a little bit of Noah's Ark here. This is going to be Vandenbelt and Burns, Magruder and Neptune working their way down into turn 10.
And the side-by-side goes away. I wonder if Burns kind of sees the writing on the wall, knows that it's not worth trying to fight this hard, this early, and risk the car. They all go single file once again behind. A little bit of a slip-up, I think, from Brunschweiler. And he's going to be overtaken by Tellini, who's still on his recovery. He's trying not to lose touch with that front group that goes from 2nd to 6th, because they've all already gapped him to about 1.2 seconds.
Yeah, and whoa, you can see some pretty mega weaving there in the back. We're almost 3 wide going down into turn 1. That's Randall picking the pocket and threading the needle, but he's going to go wide. That's going to give the position over to Tellini, but Tellini trying to hold off a little bit of an attack there from Thorsten Seifert behind with Brunschweiler in the mix as well. Everything firing off here.
Randall doing a good job bringing the car back to reality and somehow getting on the pavement without spinning it, and didn't even lose touch with that group. He just went to the back of the train, unfortunately. But as we've seen, it's going to be easy to try and use the slipstream to retake some positions. Looks like Bamber might want one as he's sizing up Brunschweiler. And Marcel's not going to cover him off on the inside, but turn 6, not the place he wants to do it. As he backs out, maybe turn 7. I wouldn't think this would be the place to do it. This is where you want the exit, and Brunschweiler nearly goes off the course as he takes it in deep. And now Bamber has the slipstream.
Yes, he does, and he's just going to try to tuck up nice behind here. Jeff Randall as well, as we've got a little bit of side-by-side here up in front again. Burns and Vanderbilt going at it again. This battle not seeming to dissipate, but the only thing this is really allowing it to do is now Magruder's getting interested as well. Very aggressive moves here early on from the Triple Eight.
A little squirming under the brakes there for Vandenbelt, trying to get it woed up down to the chicane, but he still overtakes Magruder successfully. Neptune slots in behind Potacek. I expect the 28 and the 666 likely to just be sitting and waiting patiently from here, just kind of letting those pull them along as they're popping out again behind them. Not 3 wide this time, but still 2 wide into turn 1 between Tellini and Seifert, Bamber and Brunschweiler. They all make it through successfully as we watch the group in front of them up and over the hill through turn 3. And there's that second pack. And thought maybe Jeff Randall would have a run on them, but decided not to use the momentum he had.
No, I think Jeff may be in a little bit of fuel-saving mode here. That's something that we haven't really talked about, is if you can eke out an extra lap of fuel, go for that overcut. We've often seen that be effective. Ooh, but Jeff running that car very ragged over the edge of turn 5. You've got to be careful not to end up into the kitty litter on the outside of that, as it will for sure send the car into a spin.
And watch for that first stint to end between 20 and 24 minutes. Contact this time into the back of Brunschweiler, as hopefully that didn't give Randall damage on the nose. These cars need every little bit of straight line speed they can possibly muster, and he's starting to regain on him, so that's a good sign for him. And looks off to the right-hand side. We've also got a fight between Burns, Vandenbelt, and Magruder up for 2nd and 3rd place. That's going to get back into a straight line as we break down into the chicane between these two, and clearly past goes Seifert on Tellini. So that's going to give Thorsten 7th position. But yes, when the clock hits about 30 minutes left that you can see in your upper left, expect most of the drivers to start coming in.
And here comes Tellini on a little bit of a fight back there on Seifert. He's going to be able to poke his nose ahead. Seifert carries more momentum through the corner, though, on a little bit wider of a line. But as we've said, he's not going to go too wide here through 2 and 3. There's a little bit of an off from a driver in front of them. Not entirely sure who that was. That may have been Neptune up ahead.
Yeah, I didn't quite catch it myself. They're starting to break up a little bit in that second pack. Look how spread apart they suddenly are compared to the front group, which is still out. Wow, yeah, things are looking extremely tidy now in that front group. And this second one has kind of become every man for himself, unfortunately. So let's see what happens when they hit the backstretch, though. I get the sense, because of the experience of the drivers between 2nd and 6th, they kind of understand the deal once they've all gotten to a position they're relatively happy with. There you see them on screen right now. These are all drivers with multiple seasons under their belt, so they kind of understand the strategy of the rule set in this series.
Yeah, indeed they do, and there you can see that in perfect action. That was Johan Vandenbelt pretty clearly lifting, letting Magruder and Burns on by. That's a way for him now to get out of the lead, save a little bit of fuel, just keep going along here in motion and not lose too much time. He's still going to be right behind Magruder. And as you said, Joe, they know what they're doing. They don't need to try to fire off some super fast laps here. It's much better to be just waiting at the end and really go for the attack then.
The other fascinating thing is, now that we've passed the 10-minute mark, we are into the realm where the pit window is technically open, but we're not expecting to see many drivers pit in unless they get into trouble and need to come take a spare car. But we'll watch, see if somebody tries to go for a reverse strategy, if you will, on fuel. But usually the real intrigue comes from that second stop. Who does a short middle stint and who does a long middle stint?
Exactly, and with a track like this, with this long backstretch, I would anticipate a lot of drivers here trying to come in twos or threes or fours, coming in as a group to be able to really and truly keep that draft train up and running. You don't really want to be pitting by yourself and lose that draft, unless, of course, you are our leader, Philip Hammer, who has that gap up to nearly 7 seconds now.
On lap 8, so just shy of a second faster per lap for the current champion as we go side by side once again. And Magruder right around David Burns. Yeah, now this is starting to look like some cooperation out there between them to try and use the slipstream to give somebody a better run down the hill and gain whatever little time they can on the leader each and every lap. Behind them, things have started to square back up between a few of the drivers in the second group. It looks like Randall, Seifert, and Bamber have caught each other.
Yeah, indeed. They have that fastest lap for Hammer, by the way, faster than his qualifying lap. So as he continues to burn off fuel here, he is not letting up at all.
He's trying to push. It's gone back down to 6.5 seconds, and look at this. We got some takers on pit lane. Josh Brain and Mark Figueres are both in. I think they might be the only ones. Let's watch and see whether or not Brain is, he's just going to sit patiently, let it refuel, and get right back out here in a moment. And actually, I think he'll be last of those on the lead lap. No, looks like he's still waiting on drivers to go by.
Interesting indeed. Yeah, he's going to be waiting on, it looks like, Stezcall, Anderson, Loden to go on by. So I think he'll be able to feed himself out there, and that'll be good for him. Keep up some nice position. And for Figueres, he'll be happy because he'll be able to get just a whiff of that toe of Josh Brain in front.
Back out on the track in the very striking Braun livery. And once again, we're going to swap around. But this one not as coordinated as before. In fact, they've got some battling in behind them as well. Wonder if a couple of the drivers thinking of pitting in this time want that track position. And that's going to be Potacek, who goes by Neptune for 5th spot. None of them duck down the lane. They're all going to stay out here to start lap 10. They certainly need to practice that pit entry too, DJ, because I've seen that take out a number of cars over the years.
Yeah, it is an exceptionally tricky pit lane. You got to try to carry as much speed as you can in a tighter line off of that final corner. And then you've got this fiddly little chicane that can really throw you off if you're not ready for it. As you said, Joe, a lot of practice needs to go in to make sure you get it right.
Back to single file down through the S's. Not many places to try and pass along here. But we're getting close to that 30-minute mark where the fuel tanks are going to be close to done for our drivers, up and over the dangerous turn 5 and then back towards 6, where they're going to want to try and start setting up for that backstretch, try and launch themselves off of it to gain on Philip Hammer. Last time out was a bit of an errant lap for Philip. He ran a 37.0, but he's turned it back up and it's up to 7.3 seconds already.
Yeah, indeed it is. Is there you see a little bit of a move by that is the 14 there. Sorry, excuse me. Just trying to figure out what they can go, what they can do. A little bit of a move from Magruder to go around as well. Everybody trying to dice themselves out here. Find position. You've got to be careful. You don't want to be too wide going down into the corner if you can avoid it. I think there may have been a little bit of contact there between Vanderbilt and Burns.
Ooh. Yeah, and that was Miguel Gonzalez who was being put a lap down by that group. As, some of them are taking their pit stops this time. In fact, it looks like a majority of that group. David Burns, Johan Vandenbelt, Potacek, and Neptune all in. Brunschweiler is going to follow them, but he is alone from his pack. Looks like same deal for Nick Carty in the number 17. Nobody joining him. And Paulo Anzioso is in. So a few takers here with 33 minutes to go.
And this could be a big problem here for Terry Magruder, who's been left out in no man's land in that 888. He doesn't have any draft partners. He is just going to have to really try to maximize the corners here because he's definitely going to be losing time on the straights without anybody to draft with.
Burns is on his way back out. He is going to be the highest pitter on this one. Vandenbelt not too far behind. And they're going to return in 14th place. Now, unfortunately, it looks like they do have a little bit of lap traffic in front of them. Drivers on different strategies. Johan Dorsers in the 96 is in front of them. That's bad news. That could slow them up slightly, or it could potentially help them, depending on how Johan wants to play it. If he decides to try and fight them, even though they're not on the same strategy, then that could slow them up. But he could give them a slipstream and speed them up. This is Terry Magruder, who is in second in the 888 car. Watch to see. Yes, Hammer is in. So, yeah, this is a thirsty track today. Nobody even making it to 30 minutes quite yet. Magruder's in. Tellini is in. And it looks like Randall. Is there somebody behind them? Yeah, Thorsten Seifert has saved enough fuel. He is going to inherit the lead.
All right, so that 76 machine doing a good job being a little bit lighter on the right foot there. That could pay some massive dividends if he is able to just eke out those extra couple of laps of fuel, really go for a pretty big overcut here on the rest of the field.
Tony Haynes also stays out. Oh, and what happened on pit exit? That was Miguel Gonzalez. That was strange. Oh, it was a spin. The 14, well, it's a good thing that nobody was exiting the pits because the 14 nearly chopped in front of them as he lost control. And we also saw something, I think, with a 76 on screen.
Oh, just losing it there, coming through the corner, trying to carry a little bit too much speed through it, holding the brakes as you're supposed to do, and just kind of getting stopped right on the exit of pit lane. So very lucky that nothing big happened there with cars coming in and out of the track.
Well, and they're not allowed to go past that dotted line, that dashed line, until they cross that blue cone, the marker that was a little bit up the way that you saw. So they would have got a penalty if they would have tried to avoid a round, and that would have made life very interesting amongst our drivers. Only 3 of them are able to make it this far at the front of the field. There's a couple towards the back that look like they have gone an extra lap as well, but they're obviously not in contention for the win. Seifert pits now, just barely making it to 30 minutes to go. So I guess my estimation's slightly off compared to others here. As Tony Hayes is
Joe,
in.
we've had a big kerfluffle down the backstretch. This is Vocek, Podacek, Magruder, and Neptune all involved.
Oh, no. And I think Magruder was left prone across the track. I think, thankfully, nobody was able to hit him. Must have been a miscommunication. Let's see. It's Podacek in the blue, you see. Magruder in the black and white. Oh, yeah. Just a little bit of a tangle. 3 wide, and unfortunately, one of them must have not been expecting that. Looks like, Podacek had some net code, and that's going to take him into the middle car, and then unfortunately, that's going to collect all 3 at once, and at those high speeds, it is difficult to not get away with some damage.
Yeah, and you can see even in a straight line there, the dangers of going 3 wide, very, very tough, as that ruins the race here of some drivers that were looking very promising over the course of this first stint.
And all of them had just made their pit stops, which means they're going to have to make a third stop here because this was way too soon for a second stop to get to the end, especially if none of them can make more than 20 minutes here. This is a very tight fuel race on this time.
Yeah, it certainly is, and I can tell you that Magruder has come down pit lane. It looks like Podacek has as well. So some very, very tough running there for those drivers.
Yep. Down they fly here. The number 5 trying to get away here. Excuse me. I thought we saw the number 5 out there. This is Jeff Randall there in 6. In the 107 with Bamber in the 45. And then Brunschweiler in the 4 there. Sitting in 10th position. So after those first set of pit stops, Hammer continues to lead, but he lost some of his time. A little bit slower compared to Vandenbelt. It's now 6 seconds from himself to the fan belt. And David Burns sitting in 3rd. From there, it's a big, big gap. Frederick Neptune in the 666 and 4th is about 6 seconds behind.
Yeah, sitting about 6 seconds behind, hoping to close that gap down, but it definitely looks like Johan van der Velde and David Burns starting to pull away here a little bit more. And looking at those times there from Philip Hammer, I think he just had a little bit of an errant lap as they go around, because it looked like he was about a second slower than van der Velde on that last lap. So I would imagine Philip is able to gain back some time here over the course of the next lap.
Braking into turn 6 with all of the drivers now very spread apart. This is our first decently sized battle in here, but that was a great exit from Bamber in the gray 45, as he's been able to pull away a bit, and that'll mean Jeff Randall will have to really try and make a dive to get the move to stick. And on top of it, he's going to have to defend on Brunschweiler. We're going to go 3 wide again. We are indeed. Brunschweiler to the inside of the pair of them. That might not necessarily be the best line unless he can get it woed up in time. He's the bravest on the brakes, and he is going to get it. Wow, the 4 moves up to 5th in a 2-in-1 move.
Fantastic stuff there from Brunschweiler, really able to make that work, and it just goes to show you what you can do when you are aggressive down into that braking zone as we pop back here to check out the replay.
Saw the run. He saw it was going to stay open to the inside. Why not take it? And I figured he'd be the first to break amongst them, but no. The others off to the side, almost letting him go, it feels like. And that's going to put him even closer to Frederick Neptune in 4th up ahead, about a second to go to make it a 4-car fight.
Yeah, indeed, Joe, and I think in terms of letting him go, that's just a little bit of a heads up from the other drivers going, you know what, we recognize he's faster, he may not be able to get it woed down in time, and we're just going to be a little bit careful. So I think that's a little bit of just heads up driving there from Randall.
Yeah, awesome stuff all around from all involved. I'm seeing a little bit of swapping back and forth between David Burns and Johan van der Velde as well. But honestly, it's nothing all that exciting. They're just doing this back and forth. And I'm guessing that is to try and increase their lap times as much as possible. A little bit easier to play that leapfrog game with only 2 cars in the line, though.
Yeah, very much so. And with 2 drivers that are experienced in these skippies as these two, it's very much to be expected that they just kind of don't even need to talk to each other. They just know what they're doing, able to work their way around. But the one man who is doing all of that on his own, well, that's this man, the number 60, Philip Hammer, who is just laying down lap time after lap time, setting the fastest lap of the race, dipping down into the 135s for the first time.
Whew. It's looking like it's going to be his race to lose. I mentioned it in the pre-race that he had one that he did not win last time around in the last race of the season. So will he try and completely sweep him this time? It certainly looks like he'd like to. As down the front stretch and into the first turn, we see the battle for 9th position. Kees Drost, leading Solander, Kemmerer, and Brain. 4-car fight up and over turn 3. Brain's starting to drift a bit from this duo, these teammates in front of him. I guess that's the only consolation that most others have, DJ, is that Philip Hammer's not been racing with a team to this point. Otherwise, both championships would be very difficult to take.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's one of the questions that we're going to have to be asking here for guys like Johan van der Velde and David Burns, is if they're going to be racing for the team's championship, if Philip looks to be absolutely as undeniably quick as he appears to be today.
On to the backstretch. Keys doing a good job getting himself out of range. And we're going to be opening that second pit window soon. 20 minutes to go. We could see a few drivers try to duck in. Yeah, 20 minutes max. That gives them only about 10 minutes of wiggle room overall in the pit stops, which is relatively small when you're talking about a 50-minute race. So looks like that has limited the strategy calls, as that's a spin from Drost out of the chicane. No contact there. Lost it on his own.
Very, very heads up from the drivers behind to be able to avoid that situation. Let's watch that replay. The 140 there of Solander in particular could have, if he didn't, I think, just feather the throttle a little bit coming through. Yeah, you see Drost gets a little bit sideways through the first one, and then that car just gets into a tank slapper, and then Solander able to just work his way by.
Great heads up by those behind. Dross tries to get going. Something happened to him. Is the car broken? Is that the front left that's broken? I'm trying to figure out. What in the world? Wonder if something broke as he was going through? No? Okay, it looks straight now. Well, that was a very strange incident.
Yeah, very strange indeed, Joe. I'm not sure I have an answer, as that's a little bit spicy up ahead between Jeff Randall and Marcel Brunschweiler. And because of that bad run through 7, here comes Neil Bamber.
All right, we got a fight on our hands down towards the chicane. Bamber in 7th. And make that 6 as he just edges ahead on the timing screen of Brunschweiler. Looking for the brakes. Who is going to be the bravest among them? That answer is going to be Bamber, easily past Brunschweiler. And sets his sights on Jeff Randall up ahead of him. Randall's actually gaining quite a bit on Frederick Neptune as well. So this is becoming, I guess, the battle for 4th. Burns is way up the road. They got another car in front of him that is a lap down. That's going to be a Stejkal. He's actually going to let them by. There you go. That's the red and yellow car that is going to do the polite thing and let them through.
And that was Brunschweiler. They're almost looking to take a move down into 1 on Bamber, but you can see locked up the brakes a little bit, just trying to carry a little bit too much momentum into the corner, and that really blunted any force he was going to have of trying to get that move done. Looks like he's driving a little bit with the red mist here, driving a little bit angrily, needs to calm himself down, I think, and just relax and find that rhythm.
Yeah, he's got a buffet of cars in front of him, so surely there are passes to be had if he can just stick with it and wait for the right time. So he's about 0.4 of a second behind at the moment, and that's already coming down very, very quickly because of the tow that these cars put off. They're not very powerful. Yes, they look like they're designed pretty aerodynamically, but just because there isn't enough grunt, the cars love to be sitting behind somebody else braking the air for them. And already within less than a lap after that mistake into turn 1, Brunschweiler on the attack on Bamber again.
Exactly, and we're going to be Noah's Ark here coming down through the curving section of turn 9, fanning out there a little bit. Neptune getting gobbled up, 2 for 1, and that's going to be Bamber down to the inside, trying to take 2 positions, maybe even 3.
Oh, a little bit of a cutback, almost contact there between Brunschweiler and Neptune. Frederick just caught out by the positioning of those in front of him. 20 minutes to go this time by. Will we see any of the drivers farther back take a gamble and try to pit early to finish themselves off for the fuel and take it to the end from here? Those at the front probably not willing to take that risk, especially since it was so tight to the 20-minute mark. And we saw nobody, I think, get all the way to the first 20 minutes in that first stint. But this is all hypothetical again. We don't know if anybody's going to try and go for a short one here in the middle stint.
Yeah, we'll have to find out as the pit window does officially open up, and we'll just have to see what everybody decides to do. And especially now that drivers have been able to go out and turn laps in anger, they're going to know better what their fuel tanks need on this second stint. So we may be able to see them run just a hair longer if we're lucky.
And everyone's so much more spread apart as well. Trying to find someone to slipstream off of will be more difficult unless you're like these guys, where you've got 4 all packed together like sardines, and they can easily use one another to lift and coast and ride the coattails of those who might be slightly quicker. But 3 wide once again. Here we go. Brunschweiler to the inside, and that is going to be Randall stuck in the middle. Bamber on the outside in the gray, and Brunschweiler will come out ahead and give him 4th place because of that.
Indeed, but they're still side by side there, Bamber and Randall, as they go down that final corner, trying to see if there's anything to be had. I don't think there is. This may open up an opportunity here for Frederick Neptune to be able to get a move done into turn 1. Bamber certainly thinks, though, trying to go a little bit defensive, but Neptune backs off and they stay single file.
At some point, they got to start thinking about where they want to be in this group by the end of the race. And probably not until after those last pit stops, though, I assume. But planning those pit stops and hoping that you come out where you want to be will affect that decision. So we hop on board with Bamber, coming up and over through turn 5. He's going to get another great pull from Jeff Randall in the Lotus liveried car in front of him.
Yeah, Neptune behind them looking very, very squirrely, coming over the crest of turn 5. Nearly lost the car. All right, now let's see. Bamber a little bit sideways. Big run off wide there for Brunschweiler. That may open up him to an attack from Jeff Randall.
Yep, I think he's going to have a clear shot on this one. They're going to be giving a nice toe to Bamber too, though. Question is, does he want to try and attack, or will he just simply follow through? Closing the hole immediately. That's going to move Bamber to the inside. And Bamber's got a nose ahead. Now he's got a nose ahead of the second one of Jeff Randall, but he doesn't break as deep. 2x2 into the corner. 2x2 out of the corner for all 4 of them, but Randall with a much better exit, and that'll give him 4th.
It will indeed, but we're still side by side in the back there between the Trident and Marcel Brunschweiler. Jeff Randall deciding to peel off and pit out of this, but they continue to be neck and neck, side by side. Brunschweiler's going to have the preferred line, but can that 666 hold it around the outside? No, he can.
Yeah, I kind of don't blame Jeff on that one. Things were getting a little bit more hairy in that situation. Whoa, and the battle carries on up into turn 3. You do not want to go too wide through there. Neptune knows it. He got out of it.
Yeah, indeed, he did. As now we refocus here. Drivers coming back down through the S's. No real passing here. Now watch this to see how they take turn 5. That can really throw you off if you're not careful. Good runs there, both from Bamber and Brunschweiler, as they're going to be in here. I don't think Bamber's going to try to do an attack until they get out of turn 7. That would be my preferred exit.
Looks like Magruder is pitting. Figueres has taken a stop, so a few other drivers going for early ones. And that was right on top of the gearbox of Neil Bamber as Marcel just matches him blow for blow. And that's going to give him a little bit of a toe. Almost wanted to be, I think, maybe farther back than that to get a better run down the backstretch.
Yeah, Joe, the way you really want to kind of set these up is it's a little bit like running on an oval. You have to sort of line up the pass and time it right. You don't want to be too close, because then you could potentially lose the advantage of the slipstream. As we've got a bunch of pit stops firing off. Johan Vandenbelt, David Burns both coming in. Looks like Brunschweiler's going to come in. I think Bamber stays out.
Neptune is in, so one of those 3 will continue on. Philip Hammer stays on the track. Looks like Thorsten Seifert is going to stay on the track. Camera stays out. Beifelt does as well, as does Potacek. Now, Potacek has been in twice, I'm seeing, so he needs to make 1 more, I believe. If I remember, yeah, he got involved in that incident down the backstretch that caused him some damage. But we watch Philip Hammer, and bad news for the Fan Belt and Burns as they came out right behind Potacek. And remember, Potacek can go that little bit longer here because he's come in a second time to get that spare car.
Yeah, indeed. And so that is going to hurt them. The real relation here is going to be to that battle we were watching between Bamber, Randall, and Tellini, and that whole group, as well as Neptune, to be able to see what that's going to do. I don't think they were going to really have the speed to be able to catch back in on Philip Hammer, though.
Coming off of turn 7. And Potacek almost looks like he's pulling away a little bit, actually, on Vandenbelt. Wonder if the lesser fuel on the car is helping that to some extent. Philip Hammer is now in pit lane. We got to wait a long time. It's 17 seconds back to Neil Bamber, so he's only just now approaching the pit entry, and he's going in. There we go. So Seifert, once again, longer than anybody else. He's going to stay out. Camera is in.
All right, very interesting there for Seifert, just being able to pull that out a little bit more. We'll have to see where he shuffles back around in the order, but that is a very impressive drive there from the 76. Oh, it's going to be close between him and Hammer coming out of the pits.
Wow, so Hammer comes out behind Seifert. I don't think this is going to hold him up too much, because I'm not sure that we'll see Thorsten be able to go that far in comparison. But Actually, almost looks like they're teammates here. Did he join team last season and we just did not know? We'll have to double check on that. If so, then, again, as I said before, that's bad news for a lot of people. And flying down into turn 6, Seifert actually going to give him even a bit of a tow down the backstretch.
Yeah, and so that'll be nice there for Hammer to be able to pick up with that a little bit, but I think Hammer's going to want to dispose of him as quickly as possible. Indeed, he's going to move his way to what will be the outside, or the inside, rather, of turn 10, and I've got to imagine that Seifert is going to be able to read the writing on the wall, and he'll probably back off just a little bit.
Yep, lets him through. Hammer chops back to the racing line and is ready to carry on in the overall lead from here, even if he was going to inherit it from the 76 regardless. Waiting on Tony Hayes to also take a stop, it looks like. And Potacek was just overtaken by Burns and Vanderbilt, who I mentioned didn't want to be held up. And it looks like Potacek is not interested in holding them up, just running his own thing out there and carrying on. And now he's actually going to pit in as well and leave them be. Seifert is in. Trying to see if there's anybody else. Heinen, I think, is our last driver that needs to pit. Oh, no, Tony Hayes does not pit in. There you see the yellow 75 is going to carry on one more lap, and he's going to have Nick Anderson behind him.
Very, very interesting there, Joe. By the way, just an update on the pit stops through the rest of the field. Frederick Neptune, I think he picked up a pit lane speeding penalty. He was stationary in the box for 56 seconds. That's about 40 seconds longer than everybody else we have seen. And as a result, he is all the way down to 19th.
Oof. Well, as this carries on then, it's going great for some drivers, not so much for others up to this stage. 10 minutes left to go. So people are pretty much sitting where they should be. Vanderbilt at 14 seconds behind Hammer has little hope of catching him. It's going to be down to who finishes ahead between himself and David Burns. Looks like this time by Vanderbilt is going to be the one to lead the lap.
Yes, it is. Although as they come down here, no, he decides to back off a little bit. So he's going to give it to Burns. And this is where you start to count backwards, Joe. As we always like to talk about here, where do you want to be positioned on that last lap to make that best move that you can and put yourself ahead?
Impressively, we still have 21 drivers on the lead lap. However, we've lost what looks like about 6 of them up to this point. Rob Adams, Peter Stipik, Daniel Solo, Nick Carty, Paulo Anzosio, and Keys Drost. Nope, I take that back. It's only 5. Keys is going to get back out on the course. Thought he was pitting in, going by the lapped car. There, the fan belt lapping Gonzalez with Burns by his side. And under 10 minutes now left to go. Potacek gets promoted up. And he's taken his 3 stops. Man, I wonder what could have been for Potacek. 3 pit stops, and he's sitting in 12th, which is still, or excuse me, 11th. 12th place, which is still a gain from where he began, which was 14th. So top 10 probably would have been easily doable.
Yeah, most certainly. It's a very tough break there for Vocek, and, just kind of one of those unfortunate things that we see is that there we also watch on your screen Johan Vanderbilt poking his nose to the outside. He will be able to pull ahead. Burns letting him go. Here's a little bit of that gamesmanship that we always talk about back and forth between the two.
They know the drill. At this point, it's going to be getting in the head of the other, psyching them out, making them guess what's he going to do. Is he going to try and ride behind me? Is he going to try to stay ahead and hold on to the lead? And it most likely is going to come down to that last lap and who attacks where and at what point. So though we're anticipating down to the chicane is by far the most likely amongst them. Looking through the rest of the field here real quick to see if any of our other battles have gotten any hot. And it does look like Brain, Randall, and Byfelt are closing in on one another for 9th place.
Yeah, indeed it does. Randall and Byfelt being able to really put the pressure here to the 946. Randall in particular had it down to under 0.2 of a second as they went down into turn 10. So some very intense battling through the field. Nothing is really done here quite yet.
Out of turn 7 once again. Our battle for the podium positions. The last 2 steps, a full 17 seconds behind Philip Hammer. Just trouncing the field today. He's going to pull off to the side. Still not giving up on that leapfrog yet. Third degree burns and the fan belt want to try and get whatever they can out of this, get themselves out of reach of Brunschweiler, who's behind them by 12.5 seconds. So equally big gap there down to 4th. Not really under threat if we're honest.
Yeah, not really, Joe. But Brunschweiler, though, is under pressure here from Bamber. I like what Bamber's doing. He's not really trying to leapfrog necessarily like we saw Burns and Vandenbeld do. It's much more calculated approach, just holding off behind, staying in line here, trying to see what he can do.
Down and across the line, starting another one. Bamber up to lap 27. At this stage, and now 6.5 minutes to go. Remember, lap times looking at about 135s, 136s, 137s for the drivers. So we're looking at about 4 laps here to the end as they have to deal with more lap traffic once again. Vladimir Stezkal this time staying out of the way in a very tricky spot through the S's. Usually we see accidents there when drivers try to let somebody by in that portion of the track. Both of them kicking up dust, though, using every inch of this circuit around every corner. Nobody willing to give way.
Yeah, nobody really wanting to give way around here, and as time starts to tick closer and closer to that checkered flag, it's going to be very difficult, I think, for anybody to really try to get a move by. But the biggest thing here for Brunschweiler and Bamber is they're coming up on a battle here between Anderson, Heingen, and Gonzalez. And coming up on that battle, those drivers are not going to want to give way. They're not going to want to give up their track position, and that could really throw up the running order here for 4th and 5th.
Absolutely. Always got to be aware of that traffic. This is not like Formula One where they have blue flags that obligate people to get out of the way. In iRacing, they're informational only. And that doesn't mean that they can sit and try to block you and intentionally slow you up. But they also do not have to leap to the side at the soonest opportunity and let you pass. They can continue to run their own race. And if you can't pass them, sometimes that's up to you. Now, that said, you don't necessarily make friends that way, and this is a training league where they try to educate drivers on the etiquette and skills needed to be a good racer, so most of them do behave pretty well when it comes to traffic.
Yeah, indeed they do. As we check out another little battle in the back here, this is Solander and Camara as they work their way through that tricky 2-3 complex right now. They've got to be a little bit careful there. Jeff Randall could be closing in on them. He's about 1.5 seconds back, so if they continue to squabble a little bit or let some traffic catch them out, I would say Randall's within striking distance.
Yeah, I think you're right on that one. Yeah, 1.2 seconds is not unreasonable. You can see them. You could probably feel a little bit of the effects of that slipstream. So it all depends on if he's quick enough to pull them in without them trying to battle one another, or if he needs them to fight to really close this down. Had another switch back in second. Vandenbelt now leads Burns. But as they cross, well, let's see. Hammer was across the line quite some time ago. So this is going to be 3 laps to go.
Yeah, indeed it is. And this is that reverse math that we talked about, counting back to figure out where exactly you want to be on that all-crucial last lap. This is going to be very, very careful. You're going to have to watch out for it.
Up and over the crest. Drivers starting to take different lines. Oh, somebody's coming in. That is Camara. He must have short-fueled it because I think this is his 3rd pit stop. Yes, it is. 3rd pit stop for the 104. Did not put enough in, and he knew it early, so he's going to try and take a splash and dash and get back out there.
Oh, and that is heartbreaking for the 104, driving a great race out there today and just mismanaging fuel ever so slightly. He's going to be dropping down the order as he comes to rest in his box. Looks like that's going to be about an 11-second pit stop. It should deposit him around 18th or 19th.
Okay, this time by, it's going to be 2 to go. And what are we going to do here? Who wants to be where? Does David Burns sit back this time? It looks like he is. Yeah, I think David is going to wait patiently this time. So he wants to be at the tail of this train for the last lap.
And that's a good move there from him. Again, Hammer setting another fastest lap of the race with a 35.8. He's got a 20-second advantage. And Burns and Vandenbelt here, they have about a 13-second advantage over Marcel Brunschweiler, so they can afford to just wait this out.
Half a second separates Philip Hammer's best lap and the next closest anybody else has run besides him. In fact, I think he is the only driver to have broken the 36-second mark there on the fastest lap times during this race. Ooh, that was a lot of that inside curb there, cut by Vandenbelt. He's got to be careful he does not get a slowdown penalty.
Yeah, that could absolutely ruin his race here if he has to give back some of that time, but we haven't seen him make a lot of mistakes earlier, but these are open-wheel cars. They are a bit sensitive to lighter fuel loads, so we could just be getting to a grips with a little bit of looseness here in this lighter fuel capacity.
Through turn 6. They've still got one more time through all of this, so this isn't the last run down the backstretch. There'll be just enough time crossing the start-finish for Philip Hammer that he's going to get the white flag this time by. We expect that bright orange car to not make any overtakes this time, yet again, knowing that he's right where he wants to be, and yep, I'm not seeing him pop out. Meanwhile, Philip Hammer just takes the white flag.
One lap to go here at Road Atlanta. There is your leader. Absolutely dominant performance once again from Philip Hammer. He's only got about 11 more corners to go here to take the first victory of the season.
And they're so far behind that they still haven't crossed the start-finish line in second and third. 21 seconds between them. And Burns continues to trail. We might see fourth place change hands because Brunschweiler and Bamber are very close. There you see them on screen. How hard does Bamber want to fight? He's got a top 5 easily in the bag. Does he want to make it a fourth?
Well, I mean, Joe, tell a racing driver not to fight for something is kind of like trying to tell the wind not to blow. They're going to want to try to move themselves up as hard as he can, but wait for the move, much like we were talking about between Vandenbelt and Burns. Wait for that move coming down the backstretch.
Which is going to be coming up pretty soon because Hammer's already back there. There is our leader in the 60. Along the long straight, foot to the floor. And even with that, he's at about 111, 112 miles an hour, 113, 114, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Made it to about 121 before he had to get on the brakes. Easy through the last chicane and over the hill, scot-free from here. The 60 of Philip Hammer will start with a win here in Season 28 for the Absolute Beginners League. But now it's on for second, side by side, between Burns and Vandenbelt. Vandenbelt has the inside, but not a nose ahead at first. Under braking, it starts to go back ahead. They're going to go wheel to wheel through here, giving each other space. Now it's a drag race, DJ, on who gets to the line first.
And it's going to be a shorter line there for David Burns, but it's not giving any room by Johan Vandenbelt. They're going to dive down into the corner. Little bit of bumping and banging, but who's it going to be? I think it's Burns by 22 thousandths of a second.
Whew. It was tight there. It was maybe a couple inches between them at the line. And how about Bamber? He does snatch fourth place over Brunschweiler. I imagine we're going to be seeing a lot of drivers side by side here to the finish. You can see the battle between Selander and Randall. Oh, and nope, that was Lodane. I thought that was Neptune running out of fuel there for a second. Seifert manages to finish ahead of Brain as well.
Indeed he does. Here comes Terry McGruder, who had a bit of a disappointing race after running up in that top 5 pack earlier, come across the line in 11th position. About 3 seconds back from him, it'll be Tellini, who just dropped down. I think Tellini had a problem, actually.
Ooh. And right at the end, checking to see if he sputtered across. Yeah, he sputtered across. He ran out of fuel and lost either 1 or 2 positions right at the finish, as the last of them now come to the line of our 19 finishers who completed all 32 laps. So that's going to take us to a quick break. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews, so stick around. Welcome back to Road Atlanta. We just saw the opening round of the Absolute Beginners League here for Season 28. Great fighting, especially down there into the chicane like you saw, as Philip Hammer, though, just ran away from everybody. All the fighting for second allowed him to pull a monstrous gap and wound up 24 seconds ahead at the end. David Burns followed him home in second, outsmarting Johan Vanderbilt to the line, as the number 18 did get a podium at least. Neil Bamber finished in fourth with Marcel Brunschweiler in fifth. After that, Andre Solander was P6. Jeff Randall, a seventh place finish, had Thorsten Seifert in eighth. Josh Brain went from 14th to ninth. Nice 5-place gain. Wojtek Potacek wound up with a top 10.
Coming home in 11th, it was Terry McGruder, who was running up in the top 5 earlier in the race. Behind him, Tony Hayes and Italio Enzioso. Giuseppe Tellini running out of fuel there on the last lap, coming to his problem there with Mark Figueres and Heinrich Kamara in 16th after taking that extra pit stop. Frederick Neptune was 17th, suffering from a pit stop penalty, with Johan Dorsers, Dana Bose, and Marcus Beifeld rounding out your top 20.
After that, it's drivers who are lapped down or more. Nicholas Anderson, 21st. Klaus Lodin in 22nd. And Nico Heinen in 23rd. 2 laps down for Miguel Gonzalez in 24th. Kees Drost had a bit of wheel issues, it sounds like, that put him into 25th. Vladimir Stezkal, 26th. And from there, it was DNFs for everybody else that you can see. Looks like we've got our second place finisher, David Burns, ready to talk to us. And David, congratulations on second. Looked like everybody was kind of consigned to second, or something around there instead of the win, with the way that Philip started to run away with things. But talk about setting up for the end. You and Johan seemed to be pretty close together and working well together there, and the last stint after the pit stops. But at some point, you stopped overtaking him. Did you know that you wanted to be in that second spot for the finish? Or the second in line, rather?
Yeah, I did. I mean, as you can tell, Johan and I, we were communicating. We were working together. Early on, it was a little scary. I want to apologise to Giuseppe. I thought I had space to move across, and I caught his wheel, so I'm sorry for that. But thankfully, that didn't kill him in any way. We were working together, but I didn't communicate I was going to stop passing him on lap 3, so he did call me a certain word. And he was like, oh, he's just realised that I was behind him. So it was a good advantage, but yeah, it was a really good race.
So we commented how last season Philip managed to get all but one, and we kind of figure, I bet he feels like it's unfinished business. He wants to try and sweep it like we used to see Nom do. Can you be the one to stop it, or is it going to be someone kind of out of the blue like we saw with Wojtek doing it at Watkins Glen?
Well, it's definitely my goal this season, and I was fighting to try and hold on, but I didn't get the quali position I wanted, because I knew the second he lost the draft, I could see his lap times, he was just going to pull away. So lap 2, I knew he was gone, so I knew it was a fight from then on. And he does deserve it. He just has ultimate pace, but it is my goal this season.
Well, next time out, it's going to be Barber, and that's a nice twisty track, a little bit less of the slipstream. Is that going to make it even tougher to keep him a rope on him?
I hope not. Barber, again, one of my favourite tracks. I do particularly like it, so we'll just have to wait and see. But I either have to out-qualify him or be right behind him. That's the only chance I've got.
Well, best of luck on that. Congratulations on a podium. Anybody you want to give a shout-out to?
Yourselves, as always, for doing a great podcast, and a few new faces, so welcome all, and my fellow admins for helping organise in the league.
That was David Burns, second place today from third on the grid, and a name we haven't gotten to have in the booth for a while here. DJ has caught up with the fan belts.
I have indeed. Johan, good to see you back up on the podium. That looked like a pretty great battle there with David going through, although he was just letting us know that kind of pipped you a little bit on strategy and you called him some choice words.
With all love, those choice words were. No, it was a great race, and all race long I was working together with David to, first of all, try to close the gap to the hammer, but that was absolutely impossible. And afterwards, try to build our gap to the people behind. We worked together as much as possible, try to fuel save a little bit as well. And then a few laps before the end, suddenly David didn't want to leapfrog me anymore. And I was wondering, like, hey, what's happening? And then I suddenly realized the gloves were off. And I tried to give him my all in the final corner. I knew he would make a pass on the back straight, so I tried to side draft and overtake him that way. I did, but then I realized coming out of the final corner that he could also side draft me towards the line, and that netted him that 200th of a second.
Well, talk to me about a little bit in the first stint of the race when you guys were running pretty much line astern from second all the way back to about 10th. I mean, was that a little bit of a white knuckle moment for you with that many cars around you? It looked pretty hairy.
Yeah, absolutely. There were a few drivers out there that were fighting really hard and not really working together to close the gap to Philip. So that kind of gave me some question marks, like, should I be in this fight? And then like the fighting got more and more intense, and I knew, like, I want to make a pit stop as soon as I can in the race, and get out of the area that I'm in, the drivers that I'm in. So yeah, even though those drivers are very quick, I knew that something was going to happen, and something did happen in the end. So I'm happy that I could avoid that and actually snatch a podium.
Well, it was a great run, and I've got to ask you, looking ahead, we head to Barber next. Can we expect to see you there, and how do you think that's going to go?
I mean, I will be there. I don't know if Barber is the kind of track that suits me. I really like these kind of tracks, and my pace, if you look at the practice times in clean air as well, I kind of need the draft to stay close. I work together with Wojtek and David in quali to get a good lap time, and once I'm in the draft, I can stay and maybe give them a run for the money in the last lap. But a track like Barber, where you have less draft, that will be more difficult for me. So a challenge, and I'll try to get another podium, but I think that tracks like Road Atlanta suit me more.
Well, we wish you all the luck in the world when we do get to Barber, Johan. But anybody you'd like to thank for this podium here today?
Oh, David. He pulled me along for 15 minutes. I wouldn't be here without him.
Well, fantastic. Congratulations again. That was Johan van den Velde, your third place finisher out here at Road Atlanta.
That's going to wrap us up for the afternoon. So a big thank you once again to the Absolute Beginners League for bringing us back for another season of coverage. And also make sure and check out our channel sponsor, the Majors Garage. We got a link in the description below. And if you use Majors GSRC as a promo code, you'll get 10% off your order. Thanks goes to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcasts listed here on your screen. And additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. Check out her Bandcamp for more work. Thanks to the team today, DJ Rob and Dougie. You can find more info about GSRC at globalsimracingchannel.com or through our social media. Check out our merchandise store. It's gsrc.storeenvy.com. And there's a link in the description below. Make it nice and easy to get there. And don't forget to subscribe to YouTube channel while you're down there so you don't miss a moment. The next race, as we mentioned, is in Alabama at Barber Motorsports Park, Sunday, April 3rd at 3 p.m. Eastern. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out. Mark them down on your calendar. Up next this evening, the PRL NASCAR Cup heads to Atlanta Motor Speedway at 8:30 p.m. Until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.